Howdy, 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 howdy. We are talking angles, and it's going to be a good time. Okay, so I'm going to try my very best to make this as quick and as painless as possible. So what is an angle? Well, I found this really good website that has a really cool description. And essentially what an angle is are two lines, or we'll call them rays. Two rays that connect at a certain point that are split up and are pointing in different directions. So if you look at this circle right here, we only have one ray right now. Watch what happens when I click this. We can see that as the rays spread apart from each other, our amount of degrees, that's the unit we use to measure angles, also grows. Notice that second ray went all the way around, forming a perfect complete circle. We call that a full rotation, and a full rotation is 360 degrees. I'll click it again. Watch how the second ray splits off and how immediately, as the ray separates from the other and the angle grows, so too do our amount of degrees. So right here, perfect. I'll pause it. This degree right here, 90 degrees. It's very, very important, and it's something you're going to be hearing a lot in your math careers. A 90-degree angle is also called a right angle. We could also call it a square angle or perpendicular. And it's important because if you take a second and look around the room you're in right now, I guarantee there's a whole bunch of right angles everywhere. I look up in the tiles in our classroom, there are a bunch of right angles. I look at my desk, there's a right angle on the corner. We like these right angles because they are easy to build with. And we'll talk more about that later. To go back to your guys' workbooks, the way this works is this. We have an instruction page, or 2 pages, followed by an assignment page. Your assignment page is what you're going to be working on, get marked on, okay? The instruction page is what we're on right now. So let's go through this really, really quick. So acute angles, okay? These are any angles that are 89 degrees or fewer. So if we go back to this right now, if there is a ray, well, I don't know, let's say like this. Okay, so this ray and its arc is less than 90 degrees. So we would say that that is acute. Oops, pardon me. So that's an acute angle, anything that's less than 90 degrees. As we've already said, a right angle is always 90 degrees. You can only have a right angle that is 90 degrees. If we go past a right angle, pardon me, if we go past a right angle, we immediately turn into an obtuse angle. So anything that's more than 90 and fewer than 180, we would call that an obtuse angle. Okay. When we get to 180 degrees, we call that a straight angle. And I'll come back to here. And we can see why this is called a straight angle. It makes both rays have a straight line. So that's why we'd call it a straight angle. If we think of this in terms of direction, if I was facing this way and then I rotate it all the way around, whenever I do a 180, I'm facing the opposite direction. And that's why you may have heard people say like, hey, I got to do a 180 on this. It means they're turning around. They're facing the complete opposite direction. What angle do we have when we get bigger than 180? Yeah, you betcha. A reflex angle. And a reflex angle is any angle that's greater than 180 and fewer than 360. When we get to 360, of course, we are at a full angle. Kind of cool. Okay, so for this, we'll do this in class too, don't worry about it. But what you are going to be doing is investigating. You're going to classify each angle as acute, obtuse, right, straight, or reflex. Now this one right here, notice the arc that it's subtending. It's made up of, there's a little square there. Whenever you see that little square, that is whoever wrote that doing you a favor, because that little square means that it's a square angle, also known as a right angle, which means it is 90 degrees. Easy peasy. This angle here, it could be 2 different angles. It could be subtending this arc, oops, that arc. And if it was, we can see that it is less than a right angle. A right angle, sorry, this is really messy. A right angle would be about this, right? There's my square angle, cool. But since it's less than that, it would have to be an acute angle. However, if the arc it's subtending is this, around the outside, Holy smokes, that's a really big angle. That's opened up a lot. That is definitely more than a straight angle. The straight angle would be this. So if it's greater than a straight angle, it's got to be reflex. Cool. Moving on, take a look at this guy. See how it's making that nice long straight angle? Okay, also notice how this ray is the opposite direction from that ray. This has got to be 180 degrees, which means it's got to be a straight angle. Oops, straight angle. Cool. Looking at this one, look at the arc it's subtending. We can see that it is a lot greater than a straight angle. So it must be reflex. Okay, and last but not least, taking a look at this guy, kind of tricky. It's not bigger than a straight angle. Let's compare it to a right angle. Something I like to do is just draw another ray as if it was a right angle. So this would be a right angle with that ray. We can see that the actual angle is bigger than that, but it's less than the straight angle, so it must be obtuse. Cool. Okay, moving on. Down here, we've got this very weird polygon here. And it's made up of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry about that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 angles. Okay. And it wants us to classify each of the angles below. Well, first what you need to do is just draw a little arc. And that's showing the angle that both these rays are subtending, like how much it's been opened up, how big the angle is. And again, just like we did in the last question, we're going to compare it against our right angle. So if this ray and my imaginary one made a right angle, we can see that this arc is less than that. So if we're less than right, we've got to be an acute angle. Acute. I like to remember acute angles because they're small, and bunny rabbits are small, and bunny rabbits are cute. Well, small little tiny angle, they're acute. Sorry. We'll jump over to C. We can see that C looks pretty darn similar to A. We can see that it's going to be less than 90 as well. So we'll call that one acute as well. I'll just put an A for speed. Let's jump down to E. Now this one's tricky. This one looks pretty darn close to a right angle, but we can actually see that it's leaning back. This ray is leaning back a little bit. It's not quite perfectly square. And if it's a little bit bigger, its arc is a little bit bigger than that right angle, it's got to be obtuse. So E is obtuse. Obtuse. Oops. See, this is why keyboards are nice. Holy smokes, it's taking forever. All right, sorry about that. Okay, we'll jump across over to D, and we can see that D is pretty similar to E. And we're not sure if they're exactly the same, but I think they're both obtuse because we can see how this guy's leaning back. He's not quite that perfect right angle. And if you're wondering, like, well, Mr. Lewis, how do you know that it's not quite that perfect right angle? Well, take a look at this one. See, you can fit a square in between both rays. If you can fit a square in between both rays, it's perfectly right. It's a right angle. Okay, these ones, I'll clear all this stuff off. We can see that a square wouldn't really fit in there. The angle is a little bit too big. So E and D were both obtuse. A and C were both acute. But what about B? This one can be tricky. A lot of new anglers would try and subtend that angle. But we wouldn't want to do that one because that's on the outside of the polygon. We want to subtend the angle that's on the inside. So we can see that that's a pretty fat, that's a big, big angle. And if we want to compare this against a straight angle, right, this would be the straight angle here, subtending that. We can see that B is actually a lot bigger than that. So it must be reflex. Cool. And this is essentially what you're going to be doing in assignment 1. If the polygon doesn't show the subtended arc, it's a good idea is to draw that in there, just to help your brain visualize how big that angle is. Okay, guys, have fun. Good luck. I'll see you in the answer key video. See ya.